Bibeau is a French entrepreneur, a man who openly admits that one of his main goals is to make money, which he does. But he also creates wealth and jobs. Within the last 5 years, Gilles has opened 15 jewelry and gold shops throughout Paris. He also has 25 employees. He wants to expand his business. But in France, he says that's getting harder and harder.
As gold buyers, we put money back into the economy. People come and sell us their jewelry or gold, and we give them money which they then spend. So it's all positive. We're growing and creating jobs, but there's no respect for entrepreneurs these days. There are always controls, administrative checks, be it at the customs, the police, fiscal and social contribution inspections, tax control. It never ends. We spend our time solving these problems rather than focusing on developing our business. That's frustrating. Just let us get on with our work, and we'll be an asset for the French economy since we're being asked to be patriots.
Being patriotic in times of crisis. It's one of the main messages behind French President François Hollande's fiscal policies, especially when he has to reduce government spending while paying for one of Europe's most generous welfare systems. But it was Hollande's announcement that he plans to tax by up to 75% those whose income exceeds €1 million per year that sent a fiscal tremble throughout France's wealthy elite. A tremble which would turn into a political earthquake when earlier in September, France's richest man, Bernard Arnault, announced he was seeking dual Belgian-French nationality. In a matter of hours, speculation arose that Arnault would eventually use Belgium as a stepping stone to reach Monaco. Despite Arnault's denials, the damage was done, with headlines such as, "Get lost, you rich jerk." Vincent Grandil is a fiscal lawyer in Paris. He says that since Hollande was elected, his phone hasn't stopped ringing with CEOs, entrepreneurs, and potential investors wanting to know if they're still welcome in France.
It's not that we don't like rich people. What we don't like in France is people who get rich fast. If you take a businessman who has earned a lot of money in a short time, everybody thinks he can't have done so in an honest way. Such thinking goes back a long way in French history. It's a real shame, but this kind of political discourse was held during and after the new government's campaign. Businessmen are viewed with a lot of suspicion.
Whether one likes the rich or not, the fact is the French government spends more than it earns. And 30 billion euros are needed to meet deficit cuts by the end of next year. Right now, the highest income tax rate is 45% for those earning over 150,000 euros a year. But rising capital, corporate and inheritance taxes, as well as the 75% threat, have already pushed some rich to seek exile in tax-friendlier countries. Not fair, some say, in a country where half the population earns less than 19,000 euros a year.
What I'm most shocked about when people say my taxes are too high, I'm going to leave, well, let's use strong words. I think it has to do with decency. Let's take someone who's on minimum wage. That's just under 1,100 euros a month. With that, he's going to pay his rent, for his petrol, his food, etc. Then you have someone who earns 200,000 euros a year, and he's worried about being in the highest tax-paying category at 45%. Well, I'd say that this person lacks decency.
A lack of decency in a country where the gap between rich and poor is growing. And what's even harder to swallow for the overtaxed middle class is that France's fiscal flight is far from new. Last month, a French magazine listed France's 10 richest people. 6 of them, including Bernard Arnault, have either sought residence or are already living in Belgium or Switzerland. fortunes which include famous French brands such as Louis Vuitton, Chanel or Hermès. But it's not just the French seeking fiscal exile. Out of Europe's top 100 fortunes, 1/3 of them lives in Switzerland. The reason? It offers a fiscal package for foreigners, which means wealth is taxed not on income but on expenditures. And to be a fiscal refugee, foreigners must prove they live here 6 months out of the year and have over 1 million euros in their bank account. François Michelou advises Europeans who want to relocate. While reasons for leaving vary, he says for most of the French, it's one word: taxes.
There's an ongoing disgust with the French system, its instability, and the fact that rich people continue to be frowned upon and are expected to pay more as if they were aristocrats who had stolen money from the people. So obviously in France, where more than 50% of the population doesn't pay taxes because they can't afford to, pressure is clearly growing on those who do pay taxes. Tax rises are unavoidable for those people.
Philippe Canel splits his time between Switzerland, Brussels and Paris, where he advises clients if and where they should relocate for tax reasons. For example, in Belgium the income tax is high, but there is little or no capital gains or inheritance tax. For him, the solution to ending fiscal flight is obvious.
The day there is a common fiscal policy, it won't make any sense to go from one European country to another, like moving from France to Belgium. The big problem will be agreeing on a common fiscal policy, and I think we should take our lead from the countries where taxes are lowest. The risk is that countries like France are going to want taxes to be as high everywhere else. What we need to look at is why France needs so much money. It's because the state spends too much.
Spending and taxing too much. Some argue President Hollande will have to face the inevitable, introduce labor and pension reforms if France wants to create economic growth. But for this French economist, the real culprit is not France, but fiscal policies which encourage tax evasion.
If countries like France start to really increase taxes on rich people, there's a real risk that these people will either try to move to another country or will try to avoid taxes by putting their money in tax havens. So that's a real risk. The solution is to combat tax fraud and make it impossible for wealthy people to avoid taxes by having accounts in Switzerland or Singapore. But we also need to work on tax harmonization. So if taxes are as high in Belgium and the UK as in France, for example, there won't be any reason for rich people to move to Belgium or the UK. Those are the answers I think we need to bring to this very real problem.
Finding answers to a problem which isn't going away anytime soon in a gloomy economic climate marked by austerity and higher taxes. Until then, for French exiles at least, here is one comforting thought.
Just over there lies Evian. So in a way, what we have is a tax exile with a view of France.